to Freaks and Creeks at Dawson's Creek Podcast, the show where four millennials who missed the boat 25 years ago take the dive for the first time. Join us as we experience the series with a fresh perspective week to week and see if our adolescent experiences match up with Dawson and the gang. My name is Cody.
I'm Stella. I'm Mallory.
And I'm James. And before we get started this week, we actually have some Capeside correspondence to get through because, drumroll please, we are officially released. So I guess, first and foremost, thank you everybody who has listened so far. At this point, we have just released episode 2. We're about to release episode 3, and we are recording episode 7. So who knows when you'll hear this, but we really, really appreciate it. The response has been incredible so far. We've gotten so many wonderful comments online, some great reviews from people like Kelbell0026 or RWK970 or Good Grief Thief, who says, new favorite podcast. The nostalgia, the banter, the laughs. Keep these coming, please. And we intend to. We've got 6 whole seasons to go through. So I think you've got 125 more episodes coming your way. In this, section of our show in the future, we hope to have more listener interaction. We'll read emails or anything you all send your way. We also have some corrections to make as well. So, Cody, I hear you have something you'd need to get off your chest.
Yeah, I think before we start, I just want to say that the world's problems would be solved if human beings just admitted when they were wrong and not hold on and double down on when they're wrong. Instead, just realize when they're wrong and admit fault. And that being said, Steven Spielberg does have a sex scene in his mediocre Eric Bana thriller, Munich, which has him having sex, and an intercuts between that and the 1972 political assassination of Israeli Olympians. I would say not good, and I think that's probably why Spielberg should just stick to his broad mass appeal blockbuster popcorn thrillers. And then a friend of the show, Laura, pointed out that the necklace that Dawson wears that we've all been mocking mercilessly was created by James Van Der Beek's mom for the show. So to that, James Van Der Beek and family, we are deeply sorry. And it looks great.
It's a lovely necklace.
It's a really nice necklace.
It's exactly the kind of necklace that somebody's mom would make for them. So I love that. I think it's adorable, and we do apologize. Stella, did you spank Cody with like a film reel or something like that for getting his Spielberg sex stuff wrong?
Yeah, in this relationship, I'm the film nerd.
Yes.
And when I realized that Cody had not noticed that there was sex in a Steven Spielberg movie, I gave him a talking to.
Did you pull his card? He no longer gets to have his movie nerd card in his wallet?
That is correct.
I can't talk about movies for a year now.
Oh, no. What's that going to do to our podcast?
Yeah, this is our last episode.
I actually have to do a little bit of my own apologizing. In our most recent episode that we have recorded, episode 6, I revisited the subject of the opening theme that was originally written by Jan Arden called Run Like Mad, and I said it is terrible. It is the worst song I've ever heard. I can't believe this was written for it, and I can't believe that this is what they had envisioned for the show. I really talked a lot of shit about it, and I have recently been doing some reading online, and there are some very staunch defenders of this song and its place in Dawson's Creek's lore, universe, world. So I would just like to say preemptively before I get any of those emails, because we are recording this a little while in advance from that release, I'm sorry, I was wrong. It still is not a great song. I don't think it matches the vibe of the intro credits at all, but I respect your decisions and I respect your opinions, and I'm sorry.
Never apologize for your taste. I don't like that song either, but I love that people love Jan Arden and that song. That's great.
Yeah, good for them. Well, does anybody have anything else they would like to say before we move on to the actual episode this week?
Nope. I got nothing.
Cool. All right. Well, then this week we are actually going to be talking about Season 1, Episode 7, Detention. This episode was released on March 3rd of 1998, and the synopsis is: the brewing conflicts among Dawson and his friends erupt during their detention. This episode was written by Mike White and directed by Alan Arkush, and I thought this was a great episode. What did you all think? How was the watch this week?
I loved this episode. Yeah, it was really weird when I watched it. It just like flooded back to me. Like this was one that I definitely remember from my childhood and remember thinking it was just like such a cool show as a kid. And so it was really fun just like having that nostalgia. And overall, yeah, it was such a great ep. You know, loved Abby. Her energy was really fun and like a fun way to kind of mix up and stir the pot a little bit, you know, and we'll get into that.
Pot stirrer for sure.
She is like everything that I've wanted this show to have. And I like just the greatest antagonist the show could have is someone who is just outright evil. Like she is evil. There's like no redeeming qualities about her as a character. And, but whoever I don't know who's the actor that played Abby Morgan.
Great question.
Have that info? Because she's amazing. Like
she's great.
She's very charismatic, and I really enjoy watching her perform as the Joker, the imp of Dawson's Creek.
I am seeing that she was played by Monica Keena, who went on to be in films such as Freddy vs. Jason.
Who does she play, Freddy or Jason?
That's a great question. I believe she played both of them at the same time.
Oh my God. Have you seen that movie?
I have. It's been a long time.
Yeah, there's a part where there's a stoner who gets killed by Freddy in his dreams, and the stoner thinks he's just really high, and I believe, if I'm remembering this correctly, his bong turns into a caterpillar creature that's like controlled by Freddy. Very scary.
No, thank you. Nope.
Too close to home. No thanks.
Well, I too loved this episode, but I gotta be honest, it made me hate the Capeside High teachers.
Why?
Well, I feel like they should all be fired, except for Mr. Golds. He's fine.
Yeah.
We'll talk more about it later, but yeah, we just the teachers we get introduced to in this episode are terrible.
They really. Yeah, they really suck. They're impotent is the word that I would use to describe them. Yeah, I agree. This episode was so fun to watch. I loved the different like feeling that this episode had. You know, we're all in detention. We're all we're gonna get spanked by Mrs. Tringle. I thought it was great.
Yeah. Yeah, so I loved this episode though. Like after watching it, I immediately watched Breakfast Club.
Oh.
Haven't seen that movie in years.
Yeah.
And I'm excited to talk about the parallels made in this episode.
I loved this. I thought this episode was really great, but I hated the Breakfast Club template because that movie's amazing, but this show was just like they didn't do anything with the template instead of like being subversive with it. I just thought it was like I don't know.
I noticed some things aside. It's not really the template. I noticed some other like nods, I guess, that I'll be trying to point out. I don't know. I feel like it's like kind of different than the template is a different thing.
So you're going to be sprinkling in some Breakfast Club lore.
One obvious one, and this was probably more about the template, is like the clock. They keep showing the clock on the wall that we see throughout the episode through the 8 hours of detention. That's kind of like an obvious one, but I saw a few other things that I'm excited to point out. I don't know.
I mean, like that's why I don't like about it is instead of doing anything interesting with the Breakfast Club and like subverting our expectations of the tropes that are made in that movie, they're just like, yeah, let's just do the Breakfast Club, which is like where I'm like, you could have done something interesting to change a little bit, but instead it feels like nostalgia baiting to me.
True. It is very referential to the point where it's almost like it's like a cover song of a TV episode. Yeah. Which, you know, I think to Mal's point, I do think they do it. It's been a long time. I will say, full disclosure, it's been a long time since I've seen The Breakfast Club. So for me, it was fun to kind of revisit it through the lens of Dawson's Creek because I was like, oh, that's fun. But it's, you know, like I'm not as close enough to it to probably have any kind of issue with it.
Yeah, or it's like I love The Breakfast Club. I'm not saying anything bad about The Breakfast Club. I think that movie's amazing, and I understand why they like used that. But it's like do something original instead of doing something that's already been done.
Yeah.
I think that's the reason people love this. If you look at like a list of like the top rated liked episodes of Dawson's Creek, this is like second. So I think people loved it for that reason.
And
But
I think also maybe, I don't know, I guess it really depends on the age you were if you were watching Dawson's when it came out. But like, you know, it could be a way to introduce people to the Breakfast Club. You know, people may have seen that and not known what the Breakfast Club was. You know, I think me included. So I don't know. There's that.
I guess. But it's lazy. Like, I think Mike White is a great writer, and I feel like this is the best writing the show has been, but it's just lazy. It's like, I don't know. Like, what better movie to reference for a detention episode than The Breakfast Club? Oh, that's
the
what I mean.
Quintessential detention movie, right?
But, no, I know. That's what I mean, though. It's like, if I'm saying, why not just not do a detention episode? Like, do something new where you're forcing these characters to interact that isn't just borrowing 100% from a great movie.
And we're still in season 1 where we're in a limited release. We're only on 12 episodes instead of 24 episodes like they normally get in an order of TV. So why are they already scraping the bottom of the barrel?
Yes.
Is that kind of your point, Cody?
Yeah,
Well,
Like,
I don't know. I mean, I hear what you're saying, Cody, and that's fair. I think
you did have your movie card taken away though, so you can't say
done. You're out of here. No, I think, you know, like, given the situation that we're in with these characters, we have all this bubbling tension between all of them, and I think this was a good way to force them in a situation where they had to deal with a lot of their stuff that they.
And I 100% agree with you.
And
I'm saying that they did it in the laziest way possible.
okay. Yes. Yes.
Do something like, how about this? You want to get these characters to have these interactions? Instead, do a field trip, and they're all in one bus, and the bus breaks down, and so they're all forced to do.
And
these
then there can be a scarecrow that comes to life and starts eating all the children, and it's like Jeepers Creepers.
And that's Miss Tringle, because I refer to her as a scarecrow throughout all of this.
This episode has many elements of my supernatural paranormal plot line that I've been developing, and I will be dropping those in through the rest of the episode.
Excited to hear about that.
I bet you are.
Also, I just feel bad for New York City after watching this episode.
It's just walking here, and all of a sudden this show is just shitting all over it.
Yeah.
Has everyone said what they need to say about
Your feelings?
I also, a big pet peeve of mine, and this is just personal, is I think like the overuse of needle drops in an episode is like, okay, now you're just like leaning on something to tell me how to feel. But the fact that we get needle dropped to the same song over and over again.
Saturday.
It's not that hard.
It's not that hard.
Like, unless you're like Wong Kar-wai's like Chungking Express, like, don't do that. Don't just have the same song over and over and over again. It drove me nuts.
Brutal. And it got to a point where I was like, is this humorous? Are they doing this to make me laugh? Because there are a couple times where it's like specifically, I'm just going to drop this now before we get to it, but it's the Joshua Jackson, the Ducks movies. They just let that sit there for a good long, like 3 or 4 seconds. And then they just, Saturday, it's not that hard. It's just like, what the fuck? It feels like they're using it for like comedic effect at times, which I appreciate, but I agree. It's just like, this is the one song they played that song probably like a dozen times through this episode. It's amazing.
I wonder if they had to like, they're all in production, and they're like, fuck, we need a song that has Saturday in it, and they're like, oh, we don't have anything for free. We're gonna have to pay royalties for it, and they're like,
we gotta make it work.
We're gonna milk this as much as we can. In our opening teaser, we're back in Dawson's room where, like a smooth-brained YouTube channel host, he claims the film that he and Joey are watching is far too unrealistic and turns it off, claiming that boys wouldn't drag race for a girl's attention. And Dawson shallowly proclaims that women only like romance. After a perfectly normal tickle fight, Joey drops a heteronormative truth bomb that not only do guys like girls for superficial reasons, but it's the other way around as well. Joey then hits Dawson with a 2-for-1 by stating that if girls only like romance, why hasn't Jen slept with him yet?